Welcome back. Let's talk briefly about the difference between the national debt, deficit, and surplus here. National debt is created through changes in taxes. So taxes, we've talked about these things already, why the government collects them, how they do to influence, income property sales, and what sometimes like sin taxes and stuff, they try to change behavior or provide or fix market failures. So they provide or create things like roads and healthcare and schools that wouldn't be created in a free market. So that money that comes in is called revenue. So governments create budgets, and when they go in surplus, it means that they're spending less than they're taking in, or they're taxing more than they're spending. Different ways to say it, but that's the idea. This is in a year. And a budget runs a deficit when they spend more than they take in. And this is what's occurred in the economy since 1992 or 1993, something like that was the last time the government ran a surplus. Every year since, we've ran a deficit. How does the government do that? Well, they borrow money, and they borrow money from our country's central bank, which we'll explain in the next unit, and it's what our country is in the most debt to. So the national debt is a total accumulation of all the deficits and surpluses occurred over time. That's the national debt. And every country in the world is in debt. The United States is in the most debt of every country in the world, which isn't necessarily bad when you just look at the national debt number. That's not the number that you should be looking at. What you should really look at is something called the GDP to debt ratio, which in a college course you would go further in depth to. We're just going to keep this idea of surpluses, deficits, and debts together. So eventually the government is supposed to pay back their debt. They do that on interest payments. That debt is owed to individuals. It's owed to our central bank. It's actually owed to other countries because other countries borrow us money. But there you have the idea of surpluses and debts. So you can kind of see these examples of surplus and an example of a deficit.